Hi, and welcome to our first ever virtual summit. I'm Stephanie Wade, co-founder of ChangeNerd. And this session is brought to you by ChangeNerd Learn, where you can continuously upskill your team with certification programs, next level practices, and tools with our online learning platform. And it's also brought to you by ChangeNerd Gigs, where you can hire top freelance change management professionals to supplement your current transformation efforts. To learn more, hop onto changenerd.com. Enjoy this session.
Over here, it's like, no, we don't, right? Learning is bigger than just here, just grease the skids, like learn in the flow of work, just tell everybody what they need to do when they need to do it. It's like, no, sometimes yes, sometimes wrong, not what you want to do. And that's where even sometimes there's learning in the flow of work, there's learning near the flow of work, and then there's sometimes like pulling learning out of the flow of work, and it needs to be. Let's do it, man.
Let's do it. Okay. Hey, everyone. Thank you for watching this segment. We're going to talk about learning in the flow of work and what it really means. We're connecting with Christopher Lin. He is the host of Learning TED Talks. He's also the founder of Learning Sharks. Very well known on LinkedIn. So check him out there as well. Christopher, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to have this conversation.
Hey, Brian, anything for you. You know that.
Yeah. So Christopher, before we get into the topic, tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
You know, that is honestly one of the most, I think that's one of the hardest questions to answer. And so he's like, so tell me about yourself. Like, I don't know, man. Professionally, big into learning and employee development, always have been, had this weird niche and this, passion for tech, but not for the sake of tech because of how it's changing the rules. I mean, I guess that's the professional side of me. Very casual if you haven't figured that out, but you know that, Brian. And I guess the other big thing is I have 5 kids, so I'm very much a family dude, love hanging out. I don't leave my house even before COVID. So I guess that's
yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. So Christopher, you're kind of the expert when it comes to enterprise learning. Right now, everybody's working virtual right now. But of course, a lot of companies are implementing projects. Part of those projects will include upskilling the workforce. And so, what's your take? What are some other key drivers that's really influencing enterprise learning strategies right now?
So, I think there's the reskilling one cannot be overlooked, right? That is probably one of the biggest drivers right now, is just the fact that with skill half-lives just continuing to shrink, new skills popping up left and right? You've just got this whole, oh my goodness, do we have the skills that we need to kind of, get the work done? So that's a big driver of it. One that I think 2020, it's not that this became a new thing, but it suddenly became a realization for a lot of companies is, employee wellness, well-being is really important. And 2020 really exposed how important that is for organizations. You look at the research right now, the companies that are investing in people, taking care of their people, are outperforming the ones that aren't. And that's a big part of why learning is now rising to the top, because it's like, how do we take care of our people? Yes, we need to reskill them for the sake of skills and the organization, but we also need to take care of them. They need to feel developed in. So that's probably number 2. And I think the other one, that we'll talk about as you get to learning in the flow of work a little bit more, is as we're trying to figure out how do we become not more efficient, but in some ways, how do we optimize the way work gets done? And I think that's where, we're realizing technology can really be an enabler. Mm-hmm. And that's now driving, okay, so then how do we better enable the workforce for that so that we can do more with less, or, do more with the same, things like that.
Yeah. Christopher, as you were speaking, I was thinking about the importance of relationships now with everyone working virtually. Part of sustaining strong engagement is enhancing the relationships, across the organization. In your conversations with other experts, other companies, is that becoming a major theme? Like, how do we equip leaders to, foster closer relationships with their teams? Because that's a learning
Yeah, I
element.
think that goes back. Well, and I think it goes back to employee well-being, right?
Yeah.
When you look at kind of the employee well-being thing, organizations and people in general are struggling a little bit in this new world where they feel like disconnected from the workforce, and how do they build that connection back? So I do think that that is becoming a driver. I think the tech is trying to catch up a little bit
Yep.
with that, because that it did catch, it shouldn't have, but it did catch a lot of people off guard in 2020.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I agree. So now we have this major buzz phrase, learning in the flow of work. Sounds
Yeah.
really, really cool.
And it is. It is.
Yeah, it sounds really cool. So help break it down for us, Christopher. How would you define learning in the flow of work?
Okay. So I'll give you the example of how I kind of highlighted on the spectrum. So on this side of the spectrum, and my camera's reversed, so I'll try and make sure I'm doing this right. On this side of the spectrum, you have probably kind of more what we've done historically, right? Where we've taken people out of work to focus on their development, things like that. It's been a little more formal, things like that. That's where I would call that learning outside the flow of work. It got a bad rap. And in some ways, that's probably fair, not because there was anything wrong with it, but we way over indexed on it, right?
Yeah.
We way over indexed. Sometimes it was just a reality of, well, that's the best we could do with what we had. So you had this learning outside the flow of work. Then in the middle, or probably closer to the middle, you have learning near the flow of work, which technology is really enabling a lot now, which is we're taking kind of some of these elements of development, and through technology are better able to bring that near the flow of work. So instead of being quite so disruptive and saying, hey, you know what, to be able to develop or to get the information you need, you have to completely stop doing what you're doing. You've got to jump on a plane, go somewhere, or even just go to a completely different thing. We can now bring some of that close to where the work is happening. You're still shifting gears, right? Mentally, you have to stop what you're doing and shift over, but it's much less disruptive. Then on the far spectrum, where it's truly learning in the flow of work, this is where you're seeing some of the more, I think, immersive tech or automation really allowing us to say, hey, you don't even need to stop your work. And I don't even know that I would call it learning in the flow of work. Where learning in the flow of work to me is really maximized is when you're saying, I don't necessarily need you to learn how to do this. I just know you need to get this done. And I'm going to just enable you with support so that you can do it. It's like when you think of Waze, on GPS.
Mm-hmm.
People have forgotten how to drive to places because they just know, just follow the thing in front of me.
Yeah.
And that's where true learning in the flow of work is. It's performance enablement. It's just saying, I'm doing this, I want to do it, but at the exact same time get the support I need to just finish it and then move on.
Yeah. No, I love that. So what would be some key activities, if there's someone watching this video and they're really interested in really implementing this concept of, learning in the flow of work, what would be some practical examples of that happening, whether it be on, an SAP implementation or
Sure.
otherwise?
So if we go to learning, I'll differentiate the two again, close to and in the flow, right? If we want to do some examples of in the flow of work, some of the easy ones, right, are system things. You look at like we'll use an HR example everybody's familiar with, like a Workday implementation.
Yep.
Instead of saying, hey, let's do a bunch of webinars and let's make everybody go through, Clockwork Orange style e-learning to learn all this stuff, knowing full well that by the time they have to go do a performance review, they're probably not going to remember it anyway. Let's layer on a digital adoption platform to the technology, so that the first time you go to do a performance review, you're prompted with, hey, you're trying to do this, right? Let me walk you through this. Or you have a Salesforce instance and you just rolled out Lightning and you said, rather than trying to train everybody on how to do it, let's use this technology just to say, this is the first time you've done this workflow. Let's walk you through the steps. You're actually still doing the work, but it's augmented with technology enabling you to do that. Now that's systems driven, right? And that's one place. Augmented reality or mixed reality, if you look at what's happening with the HoloLens 2, massive applications for this, especially when you think of like engineering. I
Yeah.
mean, there's lots of use cases where you can layer on digital support to people as they're doing things. So instead of them having to go, hey, I need to go look this up, or I need to go research this so I can accomplish this task, as they're actually working, we can just provide that real-time feedback. So like I said, an example, you have a service engineer, they go on site, they need to repair something for the first time. Don't punish them with training. Just say, hey, here's the guidance, and now it can do object recognition, can show how to do it. So that's on that side. If you look at close to the flow of work, some practical examples honestly are, just personal development type stuff. How do you make digestible content? How do you make some of this stuff that's not real-time performance support, but you're looking for people to grow skills, but you want to reach them when it's a little more relevant. So why not use MS Teams to be able to push some of that content to them while they're having these conversations, things like that, because it knows, hey, you're probably struggling with this right now. Here's a little learning nugget that might help you think differently about this. That's probably how you could think about it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's awesome, Christopher. I knew I could trust you to break it down. That was cool. That was really good. That was really good. So as organizations approach 2021, right, in the learning arena, what do you think are going to be the top challenges, and how can they try to overcome them?
So I think some of the top challenges that I would say, and I actually just talked about it this week, is there's so much that we could focus on, right? The tech has moved so far that a lot of orgs have a little bit of analysis paralysis, because you just look around and go, well, and we should do that, 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 and we could do that. And suddenly you just don't know where to start, and it can feel really overwhelming. So I think that's honestly one of the biggest challenges, is people are looking around, seeing this changing landscape and don't know really where to go. And I think sometimes it's about saying, okay, and this is actually tied to the second point, which is sometimes it's easy to start chasing things because it's the next thing. Oh, everybody needs a talent marketplace. Everybody needs an LXP. Like, do you?
Do you?
Right. So I think, right. Do you? Why? What are you trying to accomplish with that? How are you actually trying to use that to drive what you're doing as an organization? And so I think that kind of rapid change that's happening, compiled with the fact that people feel a little overwhelmed because they're looking at it going, I don't even know how to deal with all this. It's almost important to kind of step back and say, all right, rather than trying to figure everything out, let's figure out organizationally, what are the biggest challenges that we need to move for our organization, right? Is it reskilling?
Yeah.
And maybe it is. Maybe it's you really need to focus more on performance enablement. Maybe you've got a culture issue. Like, what are those big rocks that you have to do? And once you do that, then you can actually start backing into, okay, well then what can we do to get there? And again, not that you're going to go from point A to Z, but what are those step changes that we can make? Because if you're a legacy organization and you're trying to go to 2021 cutting edge stuff, your culture is going to spit it right back out. So it's about, what are those step changes that you can do? You're a change management guy, right? You're the expert on that one, right?
Yeah.
Is that's how we have to think about it. But you have to kind of start with the end in mind and then work backwards. And the other thing I tell people a lot of times is, part of the reason people are struggling so much is they're operating in their silos, right? They're operating in their world, and you got to get out. You got to talk to other people. You got to bring in other people with other experiences to think differently. Otherwise, you'll just keep doing different versions of the same.
Yeah, no, you're right. In speaking with a number of companies, when it comes to learning, a lot of organizations are pushing capability development, right? So
Yeah.
if you sit in the change management, department, you're now trying to teach people within the business how to do change management so they can take on work, right? But like that same thing is happening in the project management area, Lean Six Sigma, the learning, like, COEs are trying to push their so do you, with from your opinion, is that the right approach?
Yes and no, right? I think again, it's people hate that I answer it depends a lot, but I do for a reason, because it's like, well, do we just need to go out and say, hey, our goal is just to enable everybody else so we're not there? No, the goal is to go enable people so we can focus on always staying on the top edge of our game, right? Because the bottom line is the rest of the organization can't, because it's not their focus. Their focus is to know enough to keep things moving forward. Our focus is to be on the cutting edge. And the only way we have the capacity to do that is to enable the rest of the organization. And so, yeah, you look at groups like project management, change management, learning and development. We do need to act more like a performance consultancy, while at the same time not trying to make everybody else do what we do, because it's like, well, they're just they don't have the capacity, nor should they. So it is this kind of healthy mix.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Christopher, I want to be mindful of your time. I know you're a very busy man. Hey, thank you so much for contributing to our virtual summit. Can you tell the viewers where can they find you?
LinkedIn's probably the easiest one. I mean, I'm on all sorts of different things, but most people find me via LinkedIn, and I'm on there quite a bit.
Awesome. And you're going live. Is it every Friday? What's the frequency?
Yeah, so it's normally every Fridays when we do it, and then there's going to be some more stuff coming. I'm rolling out what's called Learning Reimagined in 2021, which is a development experience for people in our field, and we've got some cool things kind of planned. So there's going to be a regular lineup of different things coming other than just Learning Tech Talks, but that's coming towards the end of this year, early next.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, Christopher, thank you so much for your time.
No problem. Have a great one.
All right, thanks.